evening this evening, and welcome to a What Does Ohio State Need to Work On During the Bye Week edition of the OHIO podcast. Do us a big favor if you don't mind, everybody. Smash that like button. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Thank you so much, everybody who subscribed in the last week. We had a great week for subscriptions this past week, and we want to thank each and every single one of you who find value in what we do. If you're visiting for the first time, please consider it. If you're visiting again and you haven't yet, now's the time. Subscribe to the channel, everybody. And of course, Alex and I want to know what you think about what we think down in the comment section below. So please don't be shy. Please put a comment down there. That helps the old algorithm at YouTube as well. All right, Alex, here we go. It is bye week. This is way too early for a bye week. Let's get that out of the way. It is. But college football's got 2 bye weeks, and I don't hate that because it's a long season now, especially if you're going to play multiple postseason games like Ohio State did last season, and like we hopefully plan to do again this season. So it's a good thing. We have 2 weeks to prepare for our first road game of the year in a hostile environment. Seattle, Washington, Husky Stadium, 22-game winning streak there for the Huskies currently. The Buckeyes are going to be walking into that. Last time they went out to the West Coast, they lost by 1 in Autzen Stadium in Eugene, Oregon. They do not want to repeat that. They want to make sure that they get that squared away, and it'll be the first time starting quarterback Julian Sain will be starting a football game not in the Horseshoe. This is start number 4 for him. First time he's not starting in the Horseshoe. Now that we got all that framework out of the way.
Great summary.
Thank you. We have 3 games. It's a small sample size against a wide range of opponents. Number 1, Texas at the time. FCS school in Grambling, and then Ohio, who's somewhere in between there, who I think's a pretty good MAC school. So, all of that being said, let's start here. Let's go ahead and just pop the balloon. There's a pink elephant in the room. Red zone offense. Okay, that obviously it's got to be number 1 on Ryan Day's mind. It was number 1 on his mind in the post-game press conference after the game. It was still on his mind today at the press conference as we record this on Tuesday evening. What do we do, Alex?
So, funny story. I was actually at a Weird Al concert during the game, and I watched the game after it was already over. So I saw the score, and I'm like, okay, I had us winning 45-21. And I'll preface this by saying the only reason I had them scoring 21 was because I thought, well, maybe it'll be like 45-14. We'll have our backups in. They'll get a garbage time touchdown. It'll make it a little closer than what it actually was. So them scoring 9, I get it. But obviously when it comes to when I watched the game after the concert, I was like, boy, that was not a struggle I thought I was going to see in that game. I thought maybe our defense would get a little bit challenged with this mobile quarterback of theirs. Wasn't really a threat, to be honest. But I will say that this was a perfect game to figure that out. And while this is pretty early for a bye week, I think it really truly comes at the perfect time, based off of what happened in this game against Ohio. We had some plays in the red zone there where it looked like we were going to break it in for a touchdown. We got stopped just shy. There was a couple drop passes, one from like Carnell Tate, one from Jeremiah Smith, that both should have been touchdowns given, their skill set and being in a one-on-one that got dropped. There were some missed opportunities there for sure. And I guess settling for 3, we at least got fielding some practice, right? So that's a plus. But clearly there were some things there, especially with maybe some better run blocking at times. Just winning your one-on-one matchups if you're Carnell Tate, Jeremiah Smith, which that should be secondhand. Um, there's a lot of easy ways to fix that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Washington's they're a dark horse, right?
Mm-hmm.
People think that they're going to be between like a 6 to 8 win team. That's probably more so 8 wins, I would say. So they're no slouch. So we got 2 weeks to work on these things, and that's obviously the biggest thing. And I'm glad we got this. Just like that saying interception last week against Grambling State, get the mistakes out now, because this next 4 game stretch at least, maybe 5. I think Penn State comes after a bye week after that Illinois game, if I'm not mistaken. Um, that's a we got a tough stretch there. So get the mistakes out of the way now, get to the drawing board, and hopefully in 2 weeks we take care of business in Washington.
Yeah, we're definitely heading to the meat of the schedule. How would you? I'm interested to get your take on the idea that is being floated out there that Lincoln Keenholz should be considered with a red zone package because of his ability to run the football, be able to read the RPO. He's a dual threat where Julian has not shown that through the first 3 weeks of being really willing to tuck it and run and gain some hard yards that way. We kind of saw it with Devin Brown a season ago. So is that a possibility that we know it's in the playbook? So
Yeah,
is that
we
a
saw it at
possibility?
least
What
one
do you
play.
think of that?
Um, yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to it as long as ball security is involved. You always worry about that when you trot out a quarterback who hasn't had the same amount of playing time as the other, but worked for Urban Meyer in Florida. So, but obviously, Saiyan will be the guy 99% of the time. And that's another thing too with Saiyan, that this is another game where we saw it at Texas where Jeremiah Smith was open downfield, didn't see him. This game,
Yeah.
there was a handful of plays where there was a guy or two open and he
Hmm.
didn't see it.
Yeah,
So,
he was not seeing the field as well
yes.
this week as he was against Grambling, but and that goes without
Yeah.
saying. Step up in competition. I
Yeah.
think that they definitely had kid gloves on in week one against Texas for obvious reasons. Don't beat yourself.
Yeah.
Kid gloves comes off a little bit because it's Ohio, a little bit
Yep.
of a weaker opponent. You're supposed to win that game. He throws 2 interceptions. So
Yes.
um, that needs to be looked at. I spoke to a individual who is close with the program, who explained to me that um, he was afraid that Julian got in his own head a little bit in this game, and he explained to me that early on in the game, he missed, as you just mentioned, he missed a wide open Jeremiah Smith, who broke open and was streaking down, and it would have been an easy touchdown early in the game.
Yep.
He checked down way too early. He wasn't under pressure. He had plenty of time to throw the football, and he checked down early. And as he's coming off the field, because it was a third down, and we walking off the field, Ryan Day's in his ear hole.
Yes. I saw that.
Later in the game, he forces the exact play call. He forces it to Jeremiah downfield, and coming across on a drag route wide. I mean, wide open. Could have caught and ran the ball for probably 40 yards. In that on that particular play was Brandon Ennis, and he forces it to Jeremiah because obviously he's thinking that's where Ryan wants me to go with the football
Yeah.
because he was in his ear hole. But in this case, it wasn't there.
Yeah.
And so I think it was a great explanation of kind of where he was at in his headspace in this football game. And he
Yeah.
kind of got in his own head a little bit. Do you agree with that?
No, he totally did. Speaking of Venice, there was I believe it was when we were up 6-0 and we got in the red zone again there. Or no, it was when we were up 3-0 and it ended up being our second field goal where Ennis was wide open there too, and all he had to do was quick throw it to him on the left side, but he was just so focused on this right side of the field, and trying to get the ball, I believe, to Jeremiah at that point, where he just basically threw it out of the back of the end zone. So Ennis got robbed of a could have been a good game for him, and obviously through 3 games, Brandon Ennis was the guy I thought was going to get probably the most receptions or something on the team this year, and he hasn't done a whole lot.
That's not. I don't know that that's Brandon's fault at
Yeah,
this
it's
point.
not 100% his fault for sure. There are some things that he could get better at in his game. But yeah, Julian's not seeing him as much as he should. I agree with that.
Yeah. If anything, I think he needs to slow down a little bit
Yes.
and
Yes.
go through his progressions slightly slower. I think he's hurrying through his progressions a little
Yes.
bit too much. And maybe it's because he's reading the defense pre-snap and he's processing all of this pre-snap before, and then it's just, take a breath. Something as simple as just take a breath before you snap the ball. Like, you know what I mean? Slow it down a little bit. But he's only 3 games in.
Yes.
He's 3-0.
Yes.
He's thrown for over 300 yards twice already.
Yes.
So, lot of positives. We don't want to nitpick the negatives, but the red zone definitely was something they need to work on.
Yeah.
And I am confident that is exactly what they're working on this week.
Yeah, and you look at his stats too. I mean, he went 25 for 32 with those 2 picks. So that's 2 incompletions right there, obviously. And then you mentioned the at least 2 drops in the end zone from Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith. That's another 2. I mean, he could have easily thrown for over 80% completion percentage in this game with the 347 plus yards that he would have had at that point, and he could have thrown for 5 touchdowns if those 2 didn't get dropped. So, I mean, he didn't have a awful game.
No.
Just because of the 2 picks. He just had, obviously, based off the games we've had so far, you could consider it his worst game, but that's not even really a bad game. So he's gonna be fine, and I totally agree. He needs to just take a breath, trust his own skill set, because when he's in that pocket, he's got great feet in the pocket. He's able to he's reading his progressions. I haven't seen that from an Ohio State quarterback really since CJ, to be honest with you. And maybe even before that. But he's doing a good job, but just slow down a little bit. Don't have it in the back of your mind. If you got to throw it to 4, throw it to 4. If he's in single, even double coverage, because Jeremiah half the time gets those the same. But there's always going to be a guy open with this offense.
Yes.
And he just has to trust himself and his teammates and get him the ball. That's it.
Yeah.
And he'll be fine.
I agree. Let's stay on the offensive side and talk about this running game.
Boy, were you right.
Nailed it. Well, I have been infatuated with Bo Jackson since he was a junior in high school. Yeah. The name caught my attention. I started watching his film. I started watching entire games he played. Then he gets hurt his senior year, which was a bummer. But I had that junior film, and I was I was half joking with all the Bo knows stuff on the podcast for 2 years and everything. And of course, when he shuns going up to the team up north and decides to be a Buckeye, I had to celebrate that big time. But yes. When I saw him in person this early August, late July, early August, I came away from that experience thinking he's the total package. I saw a lot of quickness from James. I saw a lot of hard running from CJ, but I saw it all from Bo, and I just was like, it's not going to be long until he's the guy. And sure enough, I made that video a week ago, and I said, we have to see him with the ones because I need to know, is this a running back issue or is this an offensive line issue? Well, after 9 carries and 100 and some yards, I think it's pretty obvious it's not the offensive line. They were fine. He just is able to see where the holes are so quick
Yes.
and hit it. He just needs a sliver, and he's through it.
Yes.
And so he's got that burst. He's got that vision. Man, his vision is fantastic.
Yes.
Breakability. He's got moves, power, speed. I mean, he's a total package. But you can't lean on a true freshman coming off an injury in his senior year of high school and think you're going to be able to run that horse, throw a saddle on him and run him for 15, 16 games this year. Okay, that's not going to happen, which means we need to get this rotation figured out. This is my second thing in the bye week, and I think Ryan Day's probably going to totally rely on Coach Locke on this one. Do you agree?
Oh, totally. I mean, you look at their stats here. Obviously, you mentioned Bo Jackson with 9 rushing attempts for 110 yards. That 64-yarder being his long. That you take that 64 away, he still has like 50 some yards. That's great, right? Um, the average for him was 12.1, so that's exceptional. But then you look at James Peoples, CJ Donaldson. James Peoples 6.7 yards a carry, and
Better.
yeah, CJ 4.3. So not totally awful. I mean, James Peoples had a long for 17. CJ Donaldson's longest run was 11, and Peoples finished with 47 yards. Donaldson with 39. So you take those away, not great. Would like to see better from them. Be able to, like you mentioned with Bo, be able to find the holes, have the good um, vision as a running back. I think it'll come at time with them. I think Bo Jackson's just gifted, man.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I'm totally okay with giving him an equal amount of rushing attempts because he had 9, uh, Peoples had 7, Donaldson had 9. I'm totally okay with that being the rotation. And they did it right this game. They knew they needed a spark, so they put Bo in, and they got that spark. So if that's how they want to play it that way, or if you just want to start Bo from the get go and keep rotating the 3, do that. It'll end up being an even better situation for us than it was last year with a 2-headed monster at running back. If you can have a 3-headed monster and get those other 2 to kind of work their way up to that
Yeah.
kind of a level like they should be.
Elevate their play. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Like, oh, the freshman starting over us. Well, we got to step it up and get them to that level that Bo's working at right now. 3-headed monster's better than 2.
No, I
So I'm
agree completely.
so and Lachlan's the guy to get it out of them. If this was Tony Alford, I'm like, uh, hope for the best.
Yeah.
Hopefully, one of them's J.K. Dobbins, reincarnated for us. I don't know, but
Yeah.
so
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. There's no way they're going to just be like, Bo's the best, let's just run them. They have to get production out of Peoples and Donaldson. They have to.
have to.
Um, and if not one of them, then Isaiah West is going to have to burn that red shirt and jump in and be a part of that trio as well.
Yeah,
So they will find it. I'm confident that they will find it.
yeah,
Really, this is CJ's first year in the program, obviously, and James' first year as a starter. So
yeah,
I'm not panicking
yeah.
because now I know offensive line's fine.
Yeah, that's a godsend because that was one thing going in where we were like, well, it's not like we have a totally brand new offensive line. A lot of these guys did play significant reps last year. So that was good roster building by Ryan Day last year to finally get some of these guys in meaningful snaps for because it helps us this year, right? So I wasn't totally worried about, Luke Montgomery filling a spot or even getting Philip Daniels from Minnesota to fill a spot. Um, but now knowing that it's not this offensive line being terrible at run blocking. It was just these running backs not getting into their gaps quick enough and not seeing the lanes there. Um, that can be easier fixed in my mind than an offensive line issue. Because if it was an offensive line issue, I mean, we're going to be playing some good defensive lines the rest of the way. So that would have been a lot harder to gel than getting these running backs up to snuff. So
There is one noticeable, I won't say issue. I want to call it a noticeable concern, and that's right guard. Tagra was pulled again, and they put in Ethan Onyewu, or however it's
Onyanwa.
Onyewu. And right guard is becoming kind of the rotating door here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's necessarily, like I said, an issue, but what do you think about it being something that they want to solidify here in the bye week?
Well, especially with the games coming up, I think it's imperative. Especially when we play a team like Illinois, who they look like they have one of the best defenses in the country potentially. So we definitely got to get that squared away, especially before that game. Now, obviously, Washington, Minnesota, and I believe Wisconsin in that stretch.
Yep.
That's going to test things out a little bit too. But I would like to get that ironed out before we play those 3 games, because you're right, we can't have that being an issue at all. Integra, it's like I've said, there's games where he's on it and he's doing what he's supposed to do, and then there's games where it seems like he's maybe taking some plays off, not playing as hard. It reminds you a lot of younger Dewan Jones. Dewan Jones had that issue sometimes where it was like he was taking some plays off, and coaches kept warning him, like, NFL scouts are going to see that, man. Like, they're going to see if you're being lazy and stuff like that. And it ended up hurting his draft stock inevitably, but he landed in a pretty solid spot for himself, I'd say. Well, the Browns, I guess, if you want to
Yeah,
call
I
it
don't know
that.
how solid the
But
franchise is, but he is
yeah,
playing.
yeah, but he started virtually very quickly for them, so it worked out in the end. But he cost himself a lot of money because of that. So Tegra, he's got to, hopefully in this, this bye week, Coach Bowen has to talk to him and says, "Look, man, the film shows it. You gotta turn it on every single play, or else we're gonna put in the guy that's gonna turn it on every single play." And you might, if you can't, you might start seeing Ethan get more snaps and just eventually just have all of them.
Yeah.
Obviously they're gonna swap some guys here and there just to give guys rest, but
Right, yeah.
um,
And deservingly so. You're going to
yeah,
need, I mean, gosh, you're going to need multiple offensive linemen to win a national
yes,
championship. That was proven
yes,
last year as well. So it's not like we're dogging on Tegra saying he
yes,
needs to be benched here.
no,
What I'm saying is you need to have, I think, a solid rotation figured out. And if Tegra is not solid enough for you, maybe he doesn't start here.
yeah,
Maybe he's the guy you're rotating.
yeah,
So be
I agree.
interesting. And maybe he's one of those guys. If you're like, hey, we're gonna run you at right tackle and for a series, maybe he concentrates more. I don't know. He was getting some play at right tackle too in the
Yeah,
fall before he supposedly had won the right guard position, but maybe he's just one of those guys that can focus for a series or two, and then it's he needs a break and then
yeah.
refocus himself. I don't know, just throwing spitball and throwing it out there.
and
Um,
and that's and
yeah,
that's another thing I hated about this game and how it went, because this was another perfect opportunity to get more guys in, to get them more meaningful reps, and
hmm
because the game was so tight for 3 quarters, we couldn't. So that's a missed opportunity by the staff down
yeah,
to get these guys valuable reps, because you're right, we got to build this when we can in games. If we can get ourselves far ahead against a lesser opponent and get these guys reps, that is so crucial to not just this year but the years to come.
yeah,
So
100%. Because like we were talking about over the weekend, OU is a probably the 13th or 14th best team in the Big Ten. They're around that Rutgers, Maryland
Yeah,
level.
yeah.
Um, Defensively, they are really good. Statistically, they were a top 5 team in the country last year. And a lot of
Yeah.
the same players coming back. And their red zone going into this game was just as good as Ohio State's. They get off the field on third down in the red zone better than anybody in the country. And that was shown to be true. That's
Yeah.
legit. You can move it on them in the 20s, and then they lock down inside the red zone, and that played out exactly like we thought it would,
Yeah.
to the chagrin of a lot of Ohio State fans.
Yeah.
But that's not a bad football team. So that would have been a great opportunity for the second stringers to get good play against a good opponent.
Yes.
And it was missed because we settled for field goals instead of scoring touchdowns.
Yes. Exactly.
We want to make sure and shout out our sponsors for this evening. We want to thank mybookie.com. Go over to mybookie and use promo code Ohio, OHIO, over at mybookie. That'll let them know that you heard about us here, and get yourself some free insurance on your bets. Thanks to the OHIO podcast and our sponsorship with MyBookie. So please consider doing that as well. Guys, we've been so thankful to have as a sponsor now for about the last 6 months, A Place at Home Dublin. They provide in-home services for seniors and people with needs. Medication reminders, bathing, any of those little things that a loved one might need who's in the elder stages of their life. A placeathome.com/Dublin is their website, or you can call them 740-472-8181 if you live in and around the Columbus, Dublin area. And they have locations all throughout the country. So A Place at Home, thank you for sponsoring the OHIO podcast. All right, let's talk special teams before we move over to the defense.
Okay.
Kicking looked good.
Yeah.
It's exactly what I thought. He's solid from about 35 in, baby. Mark it down. Beyond that, it could get hairy. So he hit a 38 yarder, and then everything else was from inside, way
Yeah.
inside the red zone. And so, you're like you said, he got some practice. But on the other
Yeah.
side, our punt returning and kick returning hasn't looked necessarily explosive or a weapon yet. And that kind of surprises me. We have a weapon. He's not going to get an opportunity. I know a lot of people keep bringing it up, Turbo Rogers. I'm here to tell you guys, he's not going to play this year. I was told that very early on. He
Yeah.
came in June. He was not an early enrollee. The coaching staff just felt like they're going to redshirt him and make him the running back of the 2026 class. So that's the plan. He is dynamite on special teams, but that's not the way they're going to go, which is a little bit frustrating, but I understand why they're doing that because they missed out on a running back that they really wanted in 2026, and so that's a way to make up for it. But
Yep.
It's just not, we saw the huge punt return against Indiana last year from Caleb Downs, and I understand why they probably don't want to do that, to keep him from getting an unnecessary injury. Same thing with Jeremiah Smith, although I think he did receive one this year already. What can we do in the next 2 weeks to maybe bolster this thing? Is it simply just replacing Brandon Ennis, or since Brandon Ennis isn't getting much love in the offense right now, is this the way to keep him satisfied? Is that what's happening here?
You hire Jim Tressel to do double duty as lieutenant governor and our special teams coach, because there's got to be a newfound emphasis on special teams at Ohio State, because I cannot I maybe 2019 was like the last time we put like true emphasis on it. I mean, yeah, like you mentioned, we got that punt return after 10 years of not having one, because we let Caleb Downs do his thing and it paid off. Um, but it's like it just doesn't seem to be. We had Parker Fleming those couple years. that was a joke. And it just doesn't seem like Ryan Day is a big emphasis on special teams guy like even Urban was. You know what I mean? So I don't understand what the disconnect here is. And Ennis, I mean, he's got speed, but I just don't think I don't think he has the best awareness on when to hold them and when to fold them per se. There was a time or two in this game against Ohio where he waved for a fair catch, but he had space to like take it. And then there's times where he goes to take it when really he has no room. He should just wave it. So I think you got to try other guys. You got a ton of skill on that team. There's guys that are just as fast, just as talented as Ennis. And, as far as kick returns go, I don't expect much there. But
here were the people who were fielding punts when I was at the practice. You had Jeremiah Smith and Brandon Ennis,
yeah,
obviously, who we've seen. You had Mylan Graham was fielding punts. He didn't look as sure as those first two, as far as
that's fair.
Reading the trajectory of where the punt was going.
Yeah.
And then Turbo Rogers was another one who was doing that, and then there was one other guy. I'm trying to remember who it was now. It's one of the receivers.
Quincy Porter.
No, Rogers.
Yeah, maybe Rogers. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it might have been Rogers.
That's fair.
But this is definitely Brandon Ennis's job. I mean,
yeah,
unequivocally.
Yeah.
Until next year, I think, when Turbo takes it over. But it's just missing that it should be a weapon. As much talent as we have on this team, it should be an absolute weapon. Every time teams go to punt to us, they should be scared to death.
Yes.
We're going to take one to the house or flip the field on them.
Yes.
Because of how much talent is on this team. And you're right, Alex. It's being ignored for some reason. There's just not this emphasis with it.
Yeah.
And if it means that we put, Caleb Downs back there at the beginning of the game, or Jeremiah, or, whoever, then we need to do that to put some fear, I think, into our opponents early on in games. And then, if we get up by a couple scores and you're like, all right, Brandon, secure the punt, I got you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's definitely something I'd be very interested. And no one's asked the question. That's the thing. Like, I'm like, why isn't anybody asking Ryan Day what the emphasis on special teams has been the last
fear of losing credentials?
That's,
Yeah,
but there's ways to ask it without being, an a-hole.
Yeah, but you also play into it too that we have very questionable punting overall, and it's like,
well, yes, we do.
Yeah, so that Texas game was like everything I feared for punting, and I'm like, boy, that has to get fixed too. So we're really setting ourselves way behind the eight ball here on field positioning in general, with not being able to return punts for a good amount and getting the field in our favor in case we have to punt it away, God forbid, on their side of the field, and with not being able to punt far enough to flip the field that way. So, hey, Jim Tressel, I know you might be governor of Ohio someday, but you wanna come back and maybe coach some special teams too. But
there's a more pressing need, Jim.
Fair.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's an interesting way to think about that. But yeah, you're 100% right. All right, let's talk defense now. There's not a whole lot here to. We had the worst defensive play of the season so far.
For sure.
It was ugly. It was all around ugly. Yes. And I don't want to highlight Lorenzo Styles Jr. on this, but you kind of have to, because he got burned, and then he compounded the mistake with the worst tackling, attempt to tackle I've seen in some time. It looked like 5-year-olds playing flag football out there, and they couldn't get their hands on the fast kids flag. That's what it looked like. I mean, it
Yeah.
was like, what are we doing? Um, it was the one play. You take away that one play, Ohio ends up with basically like less than 2 yards per play or something like that on the
Yeah.
game. And so it was somewhat disappointing to watch. I know Corey was during the live watch, he blew a gasket over it, but it's really hard to pinpoint a weakness when you've looked this good or say, hey, we really need to work on this. Even the defensive line is improving every single week. They look like they're getting a little bit better. Caden Curry had his best game as a Buckeye this
Yes.
past Saturday. Had seven hurries or something like that. I think he ended up with a sack. So the defensive line's improving. The linebackers are fantastic. Holy cow! Riley Pettijohn is an animal.
Mm-hmm.
Peyton Pierce is just the little animal reincarnated. I think he's like the light version. If James Laurinaitis is Budweiser, I think Bud Light is Peyton Pierce. So
Fair. Fair.
uh, and then Arvell Reese is an absolute. He was created in a lab.
Yes.
And then Sonny Styles is the All American, preseason All American, and he's not made a major mistake yet, and so he looks like he's learned a lot too. So secondary, you got Caleb Downs, so you look good there no matter what.
Yes.
The corners are great. Davison Igbinosun, dude, massive improvement from last year.
Can we knock on wood that he hasn't had a flag thus far?
Thus
Like, can
far.
we knock
Do you
on
know
wood?
what they did? I caught this a week ago. I thought it was fantastic. You know how the oven mitt trick, they put oven mitts on you?
Oh, they did that with him.
No, no.
Oh.
They gave him boxing gloves.
Ooh. Okay.
They
Okay.
gave him boxing gloves. And so
That'll do it.
you can't grab it all with boxing gloves, but you know what you can
Yep.
still do?
Swap.
Punch.
Yep. Swap and punch. Yep.
Brilliant. It
I
seems to
love
have
it.
worked. It seems to have
Hey,
worked.
if it turns him into a first round corner, I would say it worked because he has the skill set to be
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
It's just, boy, he got so handsy, like averaged
Oh
like a
yeah.
flag a game. It was
Or
nuts.
more. Or
Yeah, or
more.
more.
I remember
Um,
he had two or three in like in the red zone one time in a game. It was like he again and again and again. And then we can't. I would be remiss if I didn't mention Jalen McClain is an absolute animal.
he
That
is.
hit he put on to separate ball from receiver in that game
Yeah,
was just
he's nuts.
textbook. It was textbook.
He's nuts.
Hit of the game, no doubt.
Yep.
There's not a lot to complain about here.
Yeah, Arvell Reese leading the team in tackling, sacks, and pass defense with 2 PBUs. If there was one thing that I was happy I was right about preseason, it's that guy. Boy, he, like you said, made in a lab. That guy. He's got closing speed from a linebacker that I haven't seen in quite some time. I'd have to really dig back in my brain to think of a good comp for him. Um, Maybe like a Brandon Spikes from Florida back in the day type of deal.
Ooh, that's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's nuts, and I love that he finally is having his chance to shine. Like you mentioned, Pettijohn and Pierce, they're stepping up. They're getting more reps because of their good play, so that's only going to continue to improve. I like that Bo Atkinson got to eat a little this game. Thank God. Hopefully he continues to do that because he was kind of worrying me the first 2 weeks there. 4 sacks. Love that. Where was that last week against Grambling State? They should have got like 7 sacks or 8 sacks last week. So loved seeing that, especially against a team that could arguably win the MAC again. So I
Hmm.
mean that they're no slouch, of course. So um, and honestly should have been undefeated coming into that game. Realistically, they kind of screwed the pooch against Rutgers there, but Had a good win against the West Virginia team. So, I mean, this defense, yeah, you're right. There's not a lot to complain about. The only black eye was Lorenzo Styles, and obviously he earned his spot with what he did in spring and obviously fall camp as well. And him being in there allows us to do what we do with Caleb Downs. So Lorenzo Styles is pretty important.
Yeah.
He's gonna have to clean those things up relatively quickly. I think he has
He
the
had
ability
done a
to do.
really good job in the first two games.
Yes,
Like,
absolutely.
no, he didn't. He doesn't have a ton of stats, but
Yes,
you weren't calling his name out a ton,
yes,
and so which meant he was doing his job.
yes,
As soon as he got hurt, Caleb Downs dropped down,
yes,
and it was, you don't miss a beat. In fact, it's amazing.
yeah,
But and I'm glad that we can afford to do that, that we have that luxury to do that. It gives Matty P more flexibility with that secondary, which I think is important and fun for him to play around with those pieces, like on a chessboard. But I agree with you. Having Lorenzo healthy and doing what he did in the first 2 weeks and what he did that whole game up until that point,
yeah,
is critical.
yeah,
If that becomes the weak point of this team, where teams are like, where's him? Let's make a matchup here. Let's put some pieces in motion to try to get him on one of our better receivers. That could be trouble.
yes,
I'm worried about that. So, I'm confident Matt Patricia and this defensive staff would know that, see that, and adjust to that really quickly.
yeah. And I also would believe Matt Patricia is smart enough, especially at this point in the college game. I mean, he's looked great thus far, right? I would almost imagine they have a backup plan in place in case that becomes an issue. I don't believe it will. I think we have guys that could step in if need be. But I think that was just some bad plays by Lorenzo, and he's mature enough, has the experience enough to get those corrected, especially in these next couple weeks before Washington. So I'm not worried about it. Now, if I see it against Washington, then I'm gonna be like, okay, we got a trend starting here.
Hmm.
Boy, I hope we nip this in the butt before we end up playing Illinois a few weeks after that. But we'll see.
Is there anything else on this defense that has caught your eye that could be something that they could work on in the bye week?
I want to see consistency in the sacks. I want to see consistency there because obviously, like I said, there should have been at least 8 against Grambling State. Seeing 4 against Ohio was great. We're getting into the meat of the schedule now. We're going to need to keep the pressure on these quarterbacks and get them on the ground as much as possible to allow ourselves the opportunity to get comfortable leads and all that good stuff. So I want to see consistency there. If I can, because the biggest thing I was excited about for Matt Patricia's hire was okay, the handcuffs are coming off this defense now. Jim Knowles had them in handcuffs for whatever reason, especially the defensive line. And that's why I said it during our prediction show. I figured that this defensive line was going to have the most sacks they've had since like 2019. And so far, they're behind the 8 ball on that. But there's still time to make up for it. So I truly think that if we can find some consistency in the sack game, we're just going to, there's who's going to touch us.
Hmm.
That's something we've been missing, especially that last game in November. And we're going to need it this year with the guy that they have right now, who I'm not going to glaze as hard as everybody else is, second coming of Jesus, this guy, right? But he's good and he has a great skill set. And whether they develop him into what he has the potential to be or not, we'll see. But regardless of how they develop him, we're going to need to hit him hard and hit him often come that game. So just want to see consistency there.
Okay, let me throw some Big Ten questions at you here at the end of this episode.
Okay.
The bigger surprise: UCLA being as bad as they are, 0-3. I don't know that they're going to win a Big Ten game, just to be completely honest with you. Or Oregon looking like they might be just as good as they were last year.
Oh, that's a tough one because I had UCLA going 2-10, and the two games I had them winning were
Let me
New
guess.
Mex.
New Mexico and UCLA or UNLV.
No, New Mexico, and I just picked one against Maryland. I thought maybe they'd get
Okay.
them at home. I had UNLV beating them, Utah beating them. So they're like a little behind schedule for me right now. But yeah, you're right. Looking how bad they are.
They just fired Foster
Yeah,
3 games in. He got 15 games as head coach and they let him go.
I mean, he had to tell everybody where LA was, so that was something.
That was all. You want to talk about a swing and a miss to start your career off, man. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
really. I mean, he's been striking out left and right. But I'll say Oregon. I mean, I had Oregon 11-1, but that was basically by virtue of the fact that they really only play. I mean, they play Washington. They could drop one there. I think they play USC too. There is potential for them to trip, but I only had them losing to Penn State just because it's going to be the whiteout game. But they do look like I thought maybe there'd be a regression in quarterback play and maybe the offense, but it kind of look better.
They kind of do, don't
Kind
they?
of kind of scares me a little bit if we have to meet them
It's
in Indy.
yeah, it's a little
Um,
scary. It's a little scary.
but
Um,
we're gonna find out who they are in that game at Happy Valley. That's going to be such a
yeah.
telltale for both squads.
Yes.
I can't
Yeah.
wait for that game
The
because I need
next
to know.
the next 2 weeks in the Big Ten has 4 dynamite games. It starts with 3:30 this Saturday with Michigan going to Lincoln, Nebraska. How good are the Cornhuskers?
Please
Are
be amazing.
This is
Please.
year 3 under Matt Rule. Okay, year 3 under Matt Rule is magic. It has been magic before, and a lot of Cornhusker fans were saying, "This is the year, man. We're gonna make a push. We're gonna be there in the end. We're gonna be in the conversation for the CFP." That's all they're asking for. They're not asking to go. They just want to be in the conversation. Well, if you're
Yeah.
gonna be in the conversation, you got to win this game. So this is a huge game for Nebraska. How real is Michigan? They sucked against Oklahoma. Their head coach is not allowed to be at their next game on the sideline, and then they blow out Central Michigan. But it's Central Michigan. They're like one of the worst teams in the MAC. Okay, so what are we getting here? That's
Right.
going to be an interesting game. And then the nightcap this Saturday is Illinois at Indiana. Oh, everybody said, hey, Illinois is going to be this year's Indiana in the Big Ten. Well, Indiana says, wait a second. We're still the Indiana in this Big Ten, but they
Yeah.
haven't played nobody. So it's going to be a while to find out what that game. That to me is going to be an intriguing game. And then the following week, Ohio State goes out to Washington. Washington might be ranked in the top 25 next week. They got their game. They got the Apple Cup this week. They were ranked 26th in the AP. They were just on the outside looking in. So if one of those teams falls out, they're going to step in if they win the Apple Cup, and it's a top 25 matchup. And that one's at 3:30 on CBS. And then the nightcap, you mentioned it, Alex. Oregon comes across country to take on Penn State in the whiteout. It's a big one. Oregon, and they James Franklin didn't even James Franklin himself in the Big Ten championship game. Oregon just beat them.
Yeah. And
And
give Penn State credit. They started to make it a game there late. They were really fighting, and I thought maybe Penn State was going to sneak that out at one point. But yeah, that was a great game for
yeah,
both teams.
so it's going to be interesting. Those 4 games, it's to me, it's kind of like this is the cool part of bringing the 4 West Coast teams in
Yeah.
is you're going to get these games now. Now, 2 of them are traditional: Illinois, Indiana, and Michigan, Nebraska. Although I don't know how traditional you want to call Nebraska, but they've been here for a while.
Yeah.
And then the other 2 include West Coast teams, but it's why you want the bigger. If you're going to have bigger conferences, this is why you get bigger, better games.
Yep.
So this is going to be really interesting. Um, One last question for you, Alex, here in closing. The number one ranking in the AP and coaches poll now for 2 weeks since we took down Texas, the preseason number one. Everybody knows preseason rankings are stupid. They
Yep.
don't really mean anything. Obviously, the coaching staff doesn't even probably bring it up with the players, and if they do, it's like ignore it. It means
Yeah.
nothing. Is it a most Ohio State fans that I've talked to would rather be like, I'd rather be at number 2 or 3 and have a chip
Yeah.
on my shoulder.
I get it.
Yeah. Is it even a talking point at this point, or is it like why even bring it up? It means nothing.
It could go one of two ways, and it just depends on what rat poison the team takes in when they're on their social media and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
They could go out there, be number one, not play with a chip on their shoulder, and end up taking their eyes off the prize and get beat. Or they can say, well, we're the number one team in the country. Let's go play like it. And really make that their chip on the shoulder. Like, hey, we're supposed to be the best. So let's challenge ourselves to constantly be the best. And I think that's the way they're going to go with it, because the mentality from the jump has been like, hey, we're not defending national champs, we're attacking national champs, right? So they've already had this like just beautiful poetic mentality already. So that I see us fighting it that way. Like I get the whole I'd rather be two, I'd rather be three, so there's not as much pressure. There's always pressure on us. Always. Doesn't matter what rank we are. We're held to a different standard by the nation than anybody else. Even Alabama, a lot of times, isn't held to that standard, and they won 100 natties in the last 20 years. So it's always Ohio State when they lose. It's always, oh, this team sucks. Even against Ohio, we win and we end up winning by 37-9. Oh, this team sucks. Look at how bad they are. I don't see Bama getting posted about that all that often if they struggle or if they lose. I mean, yeah, if they lose, they get laughed at, but if they struggle against a team they shouldn't, it's crickets. It's always Ohio State hate. So we're always under pressure anyway, no matter the rank. So just go out there and play like the number one team in the country. Have that aura, have that swag. Go out there and dominate like you should.
I lied. I got a couple more questions for you. I just thought of them
Perfect.
while we were talking.
I love it. Go ahead, bud.
All right, man. Um, Bigger surprise, Clemson or Notre Dame?
Clemson by a landslide. They should be 0
Really?
3. They should be 0 3. Um, with CJ Carr, he's not playing bad. I mean, that whole team's not really playing bad. They've just had some things not go their way, and that's why they're 0-2. But granted, they played two pretty good teams to start the year.
Oh yeah.
So in the back of my mind, I was like, they could start 0-2 and then end up just winning out and making the playoffs as a 10-2 team. Like they could do that. They could do what they did last year, how they lost that second game of the year that they really shouldn't have, and then they end up going all the way to Natty. Like this team could still make the playoffs. Now, obviously, if they lose another one because they don't have a conference championship to save them, they're out. So it's do or die for the rest of the way for Notre Dame. We're going to really see what kind of coach Marcus Freeman can be, putting himself behind 0-2 to start the year. But Clemson, man, the glaze that this team got coming in, like, oh, Dabo was talking. We were the first 15-0 team ever. We're going to be the first 16-0 team ever.
Yes,
They
he
got
did.
they got all these All-Americans on the defensive line. I Guys like me said, Cade Klubnik, there's your Heisman winner.
Yep, I was
Oh,
right there with you.
glaze. They should be 0-3. They should have lost that Troy game. Troy just ended up stalling out. And I mean,
You're
credit to
right.
Clemson, they helped
You're
them
right.
stall out, but they should be 0-3. That is an epic failure on maximum levels by Dabo Swinney thus far. It's I mean, don't discount Georgia Tech. Great team. A lot of the same players that took Georgia to 8 overtimes last year. Keep that in.
Hmm.
And then, of course, losing that LSU game, and LSU since then has kind of been like, I mean, they're good, but, of course, they're getting glazed because they're an SEC team.
Yeah.
Uh, but boy, Clemson just looks like out of sorts. And at this point, I kind of look at the rest of their schedule. They got to play Florida State yet. Florida State might be legit. Is Clemson even going to make the ACC title game this year?
If they don't make the ACC title game, they got zero chance. The
Yeah.
only way they're going to make the college football playoff is if they win the ACC.
Yeah, and just like they did last year. The only reason as a 3-loss team they got in was because they won the conference. And the conference was so bad.
Yep.
And Miami handed them the spot to go there. So I don't know. I'm blown away by how bad they are.
There are 2 Power 4 jobs already open. We mentioned one earlier, and it's in the Big Ten and UCLA. The other one's in that ACC you just talked about, Virginia Tech. Which one's the better job? I think this is a trick question.
I mean, money-wise and, like, just opportunity-wise, because you're in the Big Ten, UCLA. But, Virginia Tech, I think they're a coach away, honestly, from being back to what they were under Beamer. And I think the guy that can get them there is another Beamer.
It's his boy, yeah, from South Carolina. It's
Yeah.
Shane Beamer, yeah.
Because I think if you're Shane Beamer, once you lose Lenora Sellers, and he's lost him now for I haven't seen how much time, but he got injured and they lost that Vandy game pretty bad. But once you lose him, like, where's your ceiling at with South Carolina? You're in the SEC. It's not going to get any easier. You could go to a much weaker conference, restore what your dad built there, and
he went to school there.
Yeah, and get them back to where they once were, and maybe even do what your dad didn't do and try to go win an Natty. You could do it.
When I thought of this question, I went, it's really not that good of a question. I hesitated to even ask it because I'm like, Virginia Tech's a better game. Better team. And I was like, tradition, everything.
Yeah.
Then I got thinking about it. I was like, no, hold on. UCLA's in Los Angeles. Foster taught me that.
Yeah.
If you can recruit, you're going to turn that thing around and build a pretty good program really fast.
And you're a Big Ten team now. You got the Big Ten on your chest now. So that has some pull when it comes to, like, the pollsters voting and all that stuff. And yeah, you're right. LA.
Yeah. If I'm UCLA, if I get hired in there tomorrow, the first thing I do is I'm like, all right, we're recruiting 3 places and we're going to recruit them hard. Southern California, Phoenix, Arizona, and the state of Texas. You do those 3 things, you will build a roster in no time that can compete with anybody.
Yeah. There's even studs up in Washington you could go try to snag too.
I wouldn't even waste my time because trying to get those guys from Oregon or Ohio State who both recruit the state of Washington really well, I wouldn't even waste my time. I would just say those 3 states, those 3 places, Southern California, Phoenix, Arizona, the state of Texas, go. That's where we're going, boys.
Texas would be pretty hard too because we have a pretty tight grip on that. Yeah, I mean, they got to start somewhere.
You
right?
Look at all the kids who fall through the cracks at Texas who are great players who are 3 stars.
Yeah,
I mean, just sheer numbers of them.
Yeah, if they want to ever be a serious team in this conference, they have got to nail this next hire. They've got to. Or else you're just setting yourself back a decade plus at that point, especially because, like, they've already lost at least 2 recruits to decommitment since the firing. So they got to nail this next hire. Or UCLA might make teams like Northwestern and Purdue happy and just be the bottom team for years to come. And, I would say poor Nico, but...
I saw a meme the other day. It says UCLA has hired their next coach, and it's Nico's dad.
Boy, like what a story! I mean, Tennessee, though they lost this weekend, they were this close to ending a streak against Georgia, and that Aguilar just looks insanely better than Nico ever did. And Tennessee fans are just like, greatest thing that ever happened to us. Cool. Enjoy LA.
That's wild, man. Absolutely wild. If you're listening to the online version of this on our audio podcast, wherever you're downloading your podcast, thank you for doing so. Please consider giving us a 5-star review. That absolutely does help out the channel as well. We really appreciate that. Again, thank you so much, everybody, for watching on YouTube here. Please leave us a comment down in the comment section below. We would love to know what you think about our thoughts tonight, including which job you thought was better between Virginia Tech and UCLA. Any of the other questions I asked tonight, what does this team need to work on? We'd love to hear from all of you. Thank you so much, everybody for watching. And don't forget, this weekend, we're doing a live watch. We got the 10 a.m. call-in show, of course, and then we're doing a Nebraska Team Up North live watch. It's going to be wild. TG is going to be on there cracking jokes, cracking heads for the scum. She loves to do it, so it's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah, we're all Cornhuskers this weekend, right?
We're all Cornhusker fans.
Yeah, enjoy that, everybody. Enjoy the big games this weekend. We will be back next week on Wednesday night with another preview. We will have someone from the Sound of Siren podcast join us from the College Huddle to preview the Ohio State-Washington game. So we will do that. Thank you, Alex, for filling in for this bye week on our Wednesday night. This was a lot of fun, man. I appreciate that.
Yep, appreciate you, sir.
All right, everybody, you all know what to do. Be kind to one another. I owe someone's OH in Carmen, Ohio with all your heart. Till next time, OH.
I-O.
Go Bucks.
Go Bucks.